The gavel cracked, sharp as a rifle shot, right as a cop's boot slammed into my ribs. Yeah, that happened, inside a federal courtroom, with everyone watching and no one moving fast enough to stop it. You could hear the air leave my lungs and the whispers turn into a wave, and still the judge looked down at me and asked what I said to provoke an officer in her courtroom. You know what I mean? Flashlight dead center in my eyes. I told him calm as I could, license in my back pocket, registration in the glove box. I'm moving slow, sir, and in he leaned, saw the MD under my name. I watched his reflection in the glass, watched him palm a little bag from his pocket and tuck it under the driver's seat, watched him pull it back out like a magician pleased with himself. Well, he said, our doctor takes the edge off, and if you think I shouted or cursed, I didn't. I said what I had. That's not mine. And the woman across the street filmed you planting it. His face changed, the way faces change when a man decides he hates you not for what you did, but for what you are. Shut your mouth, boy. He whispered, and if that word stings your ears reading it, imagine hearing it handcuffed at 2 in the morning on your own block. They booked me downtown, denied the call, denied the nurse. Told me to sit tight, which is a thing I've done under fire and a thing I can do under flickering fluorescent lights. Morning came like a slab of ice and my attorney, Sarah Chun, walked in and went from professional to furious in a blink. She'd done her homework, my record, my community work, the 11 colleagues who'd pick up a phone at 6 a.m. to say I'd been in the OR all night. We'll get you bail, she promised. But promises don't bend metal, only courts do. We got our court, Judge Karen Redding presiding. Reputation, orderly docket. Thin patience for anyone not wearing a badge. DA's office asked for 75 grand like I was El Chapo on lunch break. The officer took the stand and told a movie where I sped, ranted, reached like I had a gun, resisted like I wanted to fight. Sarah walked him through the inconsistencies, the gap in the body cam, the magic 4 minutes where technology conveniently naps. Redding cut her off. This is a bail hearing, not a trial. And when Sarah tried to call Mrs. Owens with the video, the judge said, not at this time. The way people say never when they don't want to own it. Then she asked if I wanted to speak. So I did. I told her what happened in a voice I've used with families when the news is hard. Clean and steady. I explained how my hands were cut by the cuffs, how no officer had a bruise despite claiming a struggle, how cocaine doesn't mix with 12 hours of microsurgery, biologically, neurologically, impossibly. And as the facts stacked up tidy like instruments in a tray, Branson stood up like a fuse had burned down and kicked me. The sound in that room turned animal, bailiffs grabbing him, Sarah grabbing me. The judge pounding would like it could rewind time. And when it finally calmed, the first thing the judge asked was what I'd said to provoke a cop. And if you're wondering how a man keeps his temper when the world is already judging him guilty, I'll tell you. Some of us trained for that long before we chose our uniforms. Here's the pivot. While that circus raged, while my wife, Dr. Amara Warren, pressed her palm to my side and whispered steady things. A phone rang 1,000 miles away. Commander Marcus Jordan, who once jumped from a warm plane into a cold night 12 time zones from here, saw my mugshot on TV and called Admiral James Whitaker. And that call ran up a chain you'll never see in public, and it landed on the Attorney General's desk with words like national security and classified service. And 30 minutes later, the judge left to take a call from the chief judge who had the AG patched in. And I can only tell you what happened after because I wasn't in chambers. I was in pain. When she returned, her face had that look people get when the world rearranges itself while they're in the next room. She recessed us. And in the time it takes to brew bad courthouse coffee, a Navy helicopter settled in the park. A JAG officer in dress blues walked in with a handcuffed briefcase like a prop you think only exists in movies, and 10 minutes after that, Judge Redding ordered Branson arrested for assault, evidence tampering, false reports, and civil rights violations. She dismissed my charges with prejudice, apologized with a judge's careful words. And I walked out free into a crowd that had 1,000 questions I wasn't going to answer on courthouse steps. Why the military? Why the briefcase? Why the deference? The answer is a near secret with a half-truth center. Years back, I wore a different uniform, the one with a trident etched into the metal. Naval Special Warfare, call sign you don't need. Missions your grandkids might read about in books that leave names out. 15 years, 12 deployments. Some nights I still smell the dust when a helicopter flares and the world goes orange. One of those nights changed my body enough to send me home, Medal of Honor pinned where I felt the weight, but never told the story. I went back to the first calling, scalpels instead of carbines. A surgeon instead of a team leader, and I kept the past locked up for a reason, because no citizen should need a war resumed to be treated like a person during a traffic stop. You know what I mean? The aftermath moved fast and slow at the same time. Like floodwater, the Atlanta Journal dug, found 7 prior complaints on Branson, all whisked away by his uncle. Deputy Commissioner Edward Branson, ProPublica uncovered posts that made my stomach turn. The police chief held a press conference and looked like a man trying to stick Band-Aids on a dam. Officer Morales, quiet, steady, stepped up and said the thing that gets you frozen out of roll call, that Branson hunted for black motorists in Buckhead. Captain Thomas Walker slid an envelope to the FBI that showed how complaints got buried. Mrs. Owens posted her video and 12 million strangers watched a little bag appear from an officer's pocket and the narrative flipped like a coin. That's how we got to Act 2, the counterpunch. A federal courtroom this time, United States versus Ryan Branson. The jury watched the enhanced body cam frame by frame while experts explained what you can't fake about fingerprints and timestamps. Texts from Branson's phone joked about hunting the rich black drivers who think they're untouchable. Former colleagues testified with the look people wear when the truth is heavy but the lie is heavier. I took the stand last, not to pound a chest but to explain the simplest thing. That fairness shouldn't depend on what's hidden in a file with black bars on it. It's a brick in a foundation. You stack enough of them, and maybe something better rises. Act 3 isn't fireworks, it's work. We built the War and Justice Initiative with settlement money and small donor checks from people who wrote notes like, "For my brother," and "For my son." Sarah runs strategy like she's playing chess 12 moves out. Captain Walker consults on reforms he once wished for. Chief Rebecca Johns took the helm and installed early warning flags for bad policing, body cams with teeth if deactivated, a citizens board that doesn't just advise, it votes. Officer Morales runs internal affairs now, and the locker that once said "Rat" on it is spotless and locked and respected. The deputy commissioner resigned. The DA lost her election to someone who says "prove it before charge it." And Mrs. Owens, God bless Mrs. Owens, gets standing ovations when she talks to precinct classes about why ordinary people record extraordinary moments. The twist you didn't see coming, and I didn't want, came full circle at a police academy graduation I was asked to address. I told those recruits what I tell young surgeons, that a code means something only when it costs you something. And then I told them a secret that was never mine to share until the people who owned it said I could. Years ago, in a place I still won't name, we pulled a handful of hostages out of a concrete room nobody was supposed to find. One of them was 19, a college kid volunteering where hope is thin. His name was Michael Redding, the son of Judge Karen Redding, who stood on a bench and let an officer kick me in her courtroom before she knew who I once was. She never knew I'd carried her boy down a broken stairwell under gunfire, and I never wanted her to, because justice can't rely on intersections of fate. But here we are. My wife at the edge of the crowd with a hand resting over our daughter she's carrying. Chief Johns beside Mrs. Owens, Sarah with a file under her arm, because she never stops working. I step from the mic and the room's applause rises, and in the back row a kid with a badge too big for his chest wipes his eyes like he doesn't want anyone to see. I walk past a TV camera that's already spinning a narrative and into sunlight that feels like a second chance, for me, for the city, maybe for a system that forgot who it serves. Here's where I leave it with you. Do we want punishment or transformation, or can we have both in the right order? First truth, then consequence. Then rebuild something worth trusting. What would you have done on that porch with a phone? What would you have done on that bench with a gavel? What will you do the next time someone says, "That's just how it is"? You know what I mean. If this story hit a nerve or opened your eyes, tell me where you stand. What's right? What's wrong? What justice should look like in your neighborhood? Share it with someone who needs the conversation, and drop your take below, because change isn't a speech or a sentence, it's a chorus. And I'm listening.